Welcome to the St. Cloud State Women's Hockey Team 2020 COVID Draft. I am Nick Maxon alongside Noah Grant. Noah, pretty exciting show here for us this afternoon as we're going to introduce 4 team captains here shortly. Noah, what are you feeling like right now? This is pretty exciting stuff.
Well, if I could probably get my camera in the right location, I'd be feeling a little bit better. But yeah, very exciting day. Actually, a day where St. Cloud State alum Lisa Martinson re-signed with the Minnesota Whitecaps. So have some old and some new to get really excited about here, Nick. Obviously with the draft and the format of the COVID Cup. So maybe probably a good time to start breaking down just kind of how the draft is going to work for our future listeners and current listeners in the room. Of course, the most important people in the draft. Of course, the first draft pick is going to go to Team Nylund, followed by Team Wesloh, Team Geier, and then Team Cornelius are going to be our captains. Nick, let's talk about our captains a little bit here. Can you kind of start us off? The first draft pick, Team Nylund, led, of course, by Jenniina Nylund. Are you surprised that this is the first overall pick? I mean, who did she have to pay off to get the number 1 overall selection here?
I don't think anybody should be shocked that Jenniina Nylund is the first overall pick. 21 points last season, 8 goals, 13 assists. Just a monster around the net and certainly knows how to put the rubber towards the twine. So to me, this should be no surprise, Noah. She has a good offensive game, but what do you like about her being the first captain pick for us this afternoon?
Yeah, well, I really like the fact that she just brings a lot of grit to the lineup every time. You know, a player that really understands the importance of a 200-foot game. Like you mentioned, really impressive statistics. One that really stands out for me, 60 shots last year and a 7% shooting percentage. So that's a player that not only is getting pucks on net, but creating plays as well. Moving on to our next team captain, of course, in pick number 2, is someone we got to become very familiar with. Unfortunately, weren't able to complete our video with her due to some COVID restrictions and some technology issues. But McKenna Wesloh, an absolute blast to be with from Zimmerman, Minnesota. An 8.3% shooting percentage. If you want to talk about someone that is very selective with her shots, had a bit of an up and down year, but looking for a really impressive junior campaign. Nick, what do you like about her as the number 2 captain?
McKenna brings a lot to the game, and as you mentioned, she's the kind of player that once she gets the puck on her stick, she's very confident with it. And just also inside the locker room, she's a very good locker room. She's a good leader. She's got a good personality. And, you talk about what that can bring to a lineup. It's that cohesiveness. And for McKenna Wesloh, as you mentioned, really fun spending some time with her, trying to create that little of a segment. Unfortunately, weren't able to finish it, but again, she's a finisher on the ice, as you mentioned, a nice shooting percentage there when she gets the puck in the middle of the ice.
Yeah, should be exciting. Of course, Taytum Geier is going to captain our third team and the third draft pick overall, a junior from Verona, Wisconsin. 35 games played in every single game last year for the Huskies, 5 points and 10 shots in those contests. So kind of a real, I would say, stay-at-home player, really. Someone who is a real lockdown player in the defensive end, and you really need that with a team, especially with a goaltender like Emma Polusny and the other goaltending crew that this Huskies team brings. Working from the back end up is going to be imperative from this group, and I'm really interested to see what her selections are, being a kind of a defensive-minded player.
100%. And as you mentioned, every single team needs a player like Taytum Geier. You need a person that's going to take care of your end. Is it going to be too flashy? But again, you talk about you have an all-star goaltender in Emma Polusny. She's only as good as the team that's in front of her. And Taytum Geier can certainly bring that element to that defensive zone. Again, the Huskies are really trying to create more offense, but if they're going to spend time defending, you want somebody there that can at least protect the middle of the ice, protect your goaltender, and Taytum Geier does exactly just that.
Definitely. Rounding out our top 4 selections, of course, for our team captains, Allie Cornelius, junior from the local area, the Granite City area, looking to have another strong year as well. You got to always like that, right? When you have that local connection. I kind of think, who is the men's hockey player that's in the same, is it Spencer Meyer, right? Is the same one from St. Cloud, Minnesota.
Spencer Meyer, yep.
So you definitely got to enjoy that you have a local connection. But what do you think, who has the best position here in this draft here, right? If you talk about the draft rules a little bit here, number 1 through number 4, of course, they get their 1, 2, 3, and 4 picks, but then Team Cornelius actually picks again at number 5, and then it goes back up that list. So, I mean, where do you want, are you happy if you're Allie Cornelius with this draft selection? Do you want to be in the number 3 spot, with Team Geier and kind of somewhat back-to-back there? I mean, what are you thinking?
I like where Allie Cornelius is. You got to remember in a draft, it's almost like sometimes when you have good talent in the in your lineup, what you can do is you can trade down and get multiple picks in that top 5, and that's what she's going to get, a number 4 and number 5 picks. So for me, I like where she's sitting. She's going to have a lot of good players to pick from, and to me, I'm pretty happy where I'm sitting with Allie Cornelius there, picking number 4 and number 5.
Yeah, definitely. So like we mentioned, selections will go 1 through 4, and then the second round goes backwards from 4 to 1, rinse and repeat. 4 teams of 5 players, and the one last player remaining, that final player, will get to actually select the team that she's going to be on. I think she wins a brand new car or something, Nick. I don't know. But 24 players in the draft, 21 skaters, 14 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 3 goaltenders. We'll start with the goaltenders, but before we do, kind of describing a little bit more about how the picks come in. They come into the executive office here at the Huskies Warming House podcast via text, and we'll let you know, of course, who the pick is. As far as tournament rules are concerned, Nick, 2 8-minute halves. Following a goal that is scored, the puck will be left in the net, and the coach will place a new puck behind the defensive team's net for them to break out and start the play. Overtimes are 1-minute sudden death, and of course a sudden death shootout as well. The interesting caveat to this, Nick, the trade rules, weekly trades are decided by each team captain, and the player that is selected will be entered into the trade pool on Monday, and the trades will be made on Tuesday. So the team in the last position from the previous game will get the first pick in that trade pool based off of goal differential, goals scored, or periods won. And the player that is in this trade pool cannot enter the trade pool 2 weeks in a row. So once you get traded once, if you do happen to get traded, you're going to be stuck on whatever second team you're going to be on. So week 1, Team Nylund and Team Cornelius will match up, followed by Team Wesloh and Team Geier. Team Nylund and Wesloh in week 2 by Geier and Cornelius. And then Nylund and Team Geier will face off in week 3, followed by Team Wesloh and Team Cornelius. And finishing off, Nick, week 4, the big one. Third place, the bronze medal game and the gold medal game will be going on, of course. So, Nick, I think it's probably important right now, I would say, to think about the 3 players who don't actually have a legitimate home in this draft here. The goaltenders are 3 netminders. Nick, I suppose we could probably just go through, do we get to make the selections on this? I don't really know how this works.
Not sure either, but let's do this. Let's go through each goaltender real fast. Let's start with Emma Polusny, who has been the big backstop for this hockey team. You can't really say too much about her game in terms of just how stable she is, how good lateral she is. Just covers the net. She's anticipatory very well on reading the plays in front of her. Noah, what do you see in her game and what makes her so successful?
Yeah, one of the things, especially when you talk about a COVID Cup and the fact that you don't have fans in the building, is you like goaltenders that have quiet movements, right? Someone who, when they move laterally, they have what you call quiet feet. You don't hear the equipment and everything when they're moving around from side to side. They're not making so much noise in the crease there, and Emma Polusny does just that. 1,108 saves last year to lead the NCAA, a 911 save percentage, and a 3.38 goals against average, or 3.38 goals against average. But one thing that really sticks out to me about her game, Nick, honestly, is she's had competition every year that she's been at this university. Last year and the year before, of course, with Janine Alder, played in 20 games in her rookie year, but really took the mantle over last year. Obviously, she's got 2 goaltenders behind her that we're going to talk about that are going to be pushing for competition. But based on the body of work and the fact that I think that Polusny honestly was snubbed for some serious WCHA and NCAA awards, I expect her to have a really strong senior season.
I would agree. From the upperclassmen to maybe the incoming freshman, let's look at number 1, Sanni Ahola out of Helsinki, Finland there, Noah. Now, as a freshman, it can be kind of a transition to come in. Again, you're making a transition from Europe to North America, so there's a lot of transition that's happening. But for Sanni Ahola, what do you want to see from her as a freshman to try to put some pressure on a goaltender like Emma Polusny here in the first weeks here of the season?
Well, if you look just based on statistics, 18 games played and a 914 save percentage, and the year before she had a 962 save percentage. UNT finished junior team in the World Championships for 2 consecutive years and a national team participant. I would say the biggest thing for goaltenders is really just feeling comfortable with the situation, especially when you talk about a year where COVID is going to impact things. Just getting settled in, feeling comfortable between the pipes at the Herbrooks National Hockey Center, feeling like you're confident on that ice sheet in which you play every night. And I know that sounds simple, but for goaltenders, so much of the game is between your ears. It's such a mental aspect when you talk about goaltending. So I think for her, just, getting a chance to just feel the rhythm a little bit on the ice, and most of all, as a freshman, have fun. It's one of the best times in your college career because there's really no expectation for you, and you can only obviously go up and get better every single day.
And last but not least, the junior out of Sleepy Eye, Minnesota, Karlie Ries, coming in to be the third goaltender on this hockey squad. And for Karlie here again, Emma Polusny is supposed to be probably the name starter right now. But again, like Ahola, you have to try to put yourself in a position to try to put some pressure on her to try to earn some minutes. She's a little bit on the smaller side, 5'6", but I would imagine, too, with that smaller size, she's got to be a little bit more athletic in terms of her movements. But what do you think Karlie can do to try to break into the lineup here this season?
Well, it's a real confidence booster last year, of course, playing against Wisconsin in Wisconsin in front of a packed house. That's obviously when you get an opportunity like that to jump in, in a situation like that, it's nerve-wracking, right? Especially in a packed house like Wisconsin has. So I think that's got to be a confidence booster. I thought she played really well in that game. Of course, 24-3-6 at New Ulm in terms of a team record, and 14-2-2 with the HTI Stars, and a 1.52 goals against average. I actually believe when she was at New Ulm, I think her senior season or something, it was like a 0.96 or goals against average, I should say. So pretty impressive. And of course, the daughter of Bill Ries, let's not forget that, helped coach the year that Herb Brooks, Bob Motzko, and Craig Dahl were at St. Cloud State. Bill Ries, of course, 55 points from 1982 to 1986. So in terms of stopping the puck, I think she's got a really good mentor, someone who is really good at putting the puck in the net, Nick.
And with that, Noah, that completes the goaltending segment, which means I think it's time for the rounds to begin here. And we do have our first pick into the executive office, Noah. And, being the number one pick here, it's kind of nerve-wracking. There's going to be some expectations there. Do you have an inkling of who might be picked here, Noah, before we announce the number one overall pick?
Well, you definitely have a couple of really nice options, but I would say one of the sophomores would probably be primed and ready to go, honestly. I mean, you just look at this sophomore group that had such an impressive freshman season. I believe over 50 points combined as a group, and I believe it's the highest scoring freshman group in St. Cloud State women's hockey history. So that would probably be my vote, but we'll just have to see who locks in here in the first overall pick.
And with that, the first overall pick coming into us from Team Nylund, again, it's the sophomore from Opava, Czech Republic. It is Klara Hymlarova as the first overall pick in the 2020 COVID Cup.
Yeah, definitely not surprising. Imagine that. I was right for the first time, I think, in my life. But Klara Hymlarova, like you mentioned, Opava, Czech Republic, played in all 35 games last year. 26 points, led the team in assists, points, and shots last year. Her 26 points is actually the most by a St. Cloud State freshman since Laura Kluge a couple of years ago. Of course, Laura Kluge entering her senior season. 79 shots last year and a 10% shooting percentage. You want to talk about someone who is not only getting to the front of the net, but who can put the puck in the net. Absolutely impressive, and not surprised at all that she goes number one overall. And I wouldn't be shocked if she has 30 points or more in this upcoming season, provided there's a full season.
Yeah, she's a gamer, right? You talk about a teammate that possesses all the tools and talents that you want as an offensive player, and Hymlarova has that. She has the ability to see the ice very well, create plays, and as well as she has the puck on her stick in a good shooting area, she can certainly bury the puck. And again, no surprise here from both of us that she goes number one overall, and we say congratulations to number 12 for going first overall. With that being said, Noah, it's time to announce number 2 coming in from Team McKenna Wesloh, and this one didn't surprise me either, and it seems to be some influence from maybe outside North America. Noah, are you surprised at all?
No, definitely not surprised. Nick, the pick that we are going to announce here, of course, is number 17, Laura Kluge, senior out of Berlin, Germany. Congratulations to her on being the number 2 overall pick for Team Wesloh. Only had 23 games last year. Unfortunately, was kind of plagued a little bit by an injury. You might have seen her walking around in a cast last season, but she was definitely missed by the team last year as a result. 33 shots in 23 games played. Anytime you're a shot per game player, it means good things in terms of generating offense. Of course, Berlin and Germany national team as well. So Nick, kind of what's your scouting report on her, especially jumping into a senior year where you're trying to return from injury a little bit, find your game, of course, in these trying times. What do you like about her game moving into her final year as a Husky?
She draws attention. She's a setup person, as you mentioned, 8 assists, in the 27 games. So she's a person that can see the ice. And, when you have somebody that can control the puck, gives himself some space and find your teammates, that creates that offensive creativity, creates scoring chances. And then it's just about, trying to find somebody with that gift to bury the puck in the net to get a point for you on the board. So for Laura Kluge, again, looking to get past the injury bug. And for her, it's going to be all about her vision and be able to pass the puck in the offensive zone. So good pick there for Team McKenna Wesloh as we now to go to third overall, and this one coming from Taytum Geier. And for number 3 overall, it's going to be Emma Gentry as number 3 overall.
Yeah, definitely not surprised about this one, Nick. This is going to be our first incoming player, and the reason I say incoming player as opposed to freshman is we do have a transfer student as well in this group, but you do have 8 new names on this roster. Of course, we did lose 10 names outgoing from last season, so I got to be honest with you, Nick. There's a term that you like to use in the hockey world, and it's called eye-popping numbers. So let me read this one off to you. 65 games played for Honeybake last year, 50 goals, 26 assists, 76 points. And the year before with Meyer AAA 19U, 65 games played. Nick, how about this one? 105 points with 71 goals. Obviously a development camp, a national development camp invitee, gold medalist at the 2020 U18 World Championships. And the biggest thing for me here, Nick, and this is a credit to Steve McDonald, Janelle Sergey, and Molly Engstrom and their scouting and recruiting staff here. She stayed at St. Cloud through the summers for her national camps, and being able to stay in the dorms, check out the cafeteria and play at the rink, made her kind of realize that St. Cloud was going to be her home. So, Nick, a little bit of recruiting kudos to the St. Cloud State group here, as they did a very fantastic job bringing in a freshman group last year, and I think they've done so again, especially with a pick with Emma Gentry.
Good, and great speed also by Emma Gentry. She's got that big 5'10" foot frame, so she's going to have that height and that leg length advantage to get her some speed. And, you talk about offensive firepower, man, does this girl bring it? So certainly going to be a very good element for this team to add with a really good, as you mentioned, former freshman class now graduating into their sophomore season. So again, it all comes down to recruiting, the culture that you build, and congratulations to the coaching staff. And we certainly welcome Emma Gentry into the St. Cloud State Huskies hockey community here at Herb Brooks National Hockey Center. But with that, we have Team Cornelius here, Noah, going with back-to-back picks, starting with the 4th overall pick. Another sophomore going from Shawinigan, Saskatchewan. That's number 13, Taylor Lind. They'll be going 4th overall, Noah.
Yeah, Taylor Lind, a sophomore, like you mentioned, from Saskatchewan, had a really strong year, and I really think that she's a player that plays a really strong 200-foot game. Really like what she brings on the ice. I think she, is someone that's really going to gain a lot of confidence in her sophomore year. I think that there were some times where she maybe just didn't feel like she had the opportunity that she was looking for, and I think in the second half of the year she really showed that she was more confident with the puck, and we're going to see that, especially when she moves into her senior year as a Husky through the next couple of years. She's going to be a very, very pivotal piece to this St. Cloud State group.
And you talk about, Noah, again, we talk about transition, from going from junior leagues to the NCAA. There's always that kind of feel-out period, and certainly for Taylor Lind, you notice that it was almost like a snap of a finger where things just kind of click with her, and certainly she's got the talent and the tools to be a very successful offensive force, and I think Taylor Lind, again, showing as a, underclassman going here in the top 4 here again for Team Allie Cornelius, who is back again for the 5th overall pick. And this one, I'm actually kind of shocked a little bit here, Noah, that this one actually fell to number 5, as we're going to take a look at Olivia Cvar going 5th overall for a Team at Cornelius. Congratulations to Olivia Cvar, who really did impress both of us here as the freshman phenomenon out of Canada, Noah.
Yeah, played in every single game for the Huskies, led the team in goals besides Hallie Theodosopoulos with 10 goals on the year last year. Had a really strong second half, capped off by an absolutely twisted wrister upstairs for the game winner against Bemidji State against Lauren Bench for the 1-0 win off of a 41 save shutout by Emma Polusny as well for the last home game of the regular season. Nick, someone who I just shoots the puck hard. I mean, there's no other way to say it. She has an absolute cannon of a shot, and definitely going to be probably a power play specialist in the years to come for the St. Cloud State Huskies.
She does. And you talk about, shooting pucks when you're younger, and you really don't really understand why until you get to this level, and how when you can shoot the puck well, if you're lacking in some other areas, it kind of makes up for it. Not that Olivia Cvar does, but she's a complete player. She has a nose for the net and certainly has a nose to put the puck behind the goaltender's padding. So she's going to definitely develop more confidence the more points that she gets. And I feel like, again, with this upcoming freshman class and with the current group of upperclassmen that we have, she's only going to be finding that score sheet a little bit more often. So congratulations to Olivia Cvar. As we head into number 6 overall here from a team Taytum Geier. And this one will be Courtney Hall as going next for our 2020 COVID draft, Noah.
Yeah, not surprised by this one, to be honest with you. Courtney Hall, another player in that sophomore group that had a really strong second half of the season. A player that fundamentally is really sound, always in the right position, always making the right plays. And I really like, you always need those players, especially those, that F3, that high forward, someone who really takes care of both ends of the ice. I think Courtney Hall is that player, and her work ethic is what really stands out to me. Always tenacious on pucks, always not afraid to go into the corners and make plays. So I really like this selection for the South Lyon native out of Michigan.
100%. You talk about character players and, the kind of the grittier players, and that's essentially what Courtney Hall is. And, when you embrace the role and you're going to kind of get in there, especially in the forecheck, and just, kind of create havoc, you're wearing down opposing defenses, you're spending time in the offensive zone, you're sustaining the forecheck, and those are all really, really good things. So, again, you talk about those types of players that can just be the heart and soul of your team, and Courtney Hall is certainly like that. So as we go into the 7th overall pick, we're going to talk about some new names here, Noah, as we get into the next one here. And this is going to be, let's see, as we go back down the list here in the executive office.
It should be, this one should be, I'll help you out on here. This one should be Hannah Bates for Team Wesloh here, I believe. Yes, Hannah Bates for Team Wesloh on this one. I really like this pick. Hannah Bates, of course, characteristically used to wear number 24, switching, I believe, this year to number 8, if I'm not mistaken. The last person to wear number 8 was the whiz kid, Brooke Kaderka, who is actually, I believe, coaching in Michigan. Hannah Bates from Trenton, Michigan, and pretty good at pumpkin carving, from what I've noticed with Laura Kluge and Emma Polusny. Knows how to put some pretty impressive pumpkin carvings to the test. But one thing I really like about her game, Nick, she's really solid in terms of blocking shots. Someone who really takes care of the front of the net, does a really nice job boxing out in front of the crease, and always gets the puck out, always does a good job chipping pucks off the glass, and that's exactly what you're looking for a stay-at-home gritty defenseman, and excited to see what she brings in her senior year.
You talk about when in doubt, get it out. Sometimes you need to have that patience and that confidence with the puck in your stick in the defensive zone. Very easy sometimes to kind of feel nervous, to kind of feel a little bit jittery, and sometimes it's those types of mental plays that often create the mistakes. And so when you have somebody that's got the leadership and the confidence to have the puck on their stick, to be patient, to wait for the right play, and sometimes it's not the first pass. It's about sometimes just moving your feet, and she can do that. And so this is a really good pickup here for this squad. For next overall, for our next selection, it's Linnea Miletonidis, and that is one of our new persons. And I do apologize if I botched that name, Noah, but a really good, another exciting incoming player here for the Huskies squad.
Yeah, Leah Melatinos. Freshman, of course, from Finland, a 3-time World Junior Championship participant, 22 games played and 16 points with, I believe, is it Espoo last year, and then, of course, 15 goals in those World Junior Championships to go along with 9 assists. Really like freshmen, of course, we saw it with Klara Hymlarova last year, that are just able to settle in. I got to believe she's going to be another one that just kind of catches lightning in a bottle right out of the gate. Really like her numbers, really like her style of play, and really excited to see what she does in her first game in a Husky sweater.
And again, not the biggest player, 5'4", as the freshman, but again, those smaller players, I remember when I played, it's about speed, it's about creativity, and it's certainly for, the way that they play the game over in Europe, it's more of a puck possession type game. So I'm really looking forward to see what she can do, especially in the offensive zone. Should be a good addition to this Husky squad. And again, as you mentioned, Noah, looking forward to see what she can do for this Husky squad in 2020 and 2021. As we go to our next pick for Team Jenniina Nylund, and it's going to be senior defenseman Kenzie Wylie as our next pick in the 2020 COVID Cup, Noah.
Yeah, Kenzie Wylie, of course, had a letter on her sweater in terms of captaincy last year. The only junior to do so from Ham Lake, Minnesota, played in every single game for the Huskies. And someone who's a class act on the ice. I mean, obviously, I think her defensive accolades on the ice speak for themselves, but someone who, you see her at the rink all the time. She's very cordial, very polite, really fun to talk to. And I think for us as media guys, Nick, it's always welcoming, the women's hockey team in general. Don't tell anyone we said this, but I think they're a lot more fun to work with than the men's team, to be honest with you. They're a lot more easy to talk to, I would say. But Kenzie Wylie, her leadership on and off the ice in that locker room is something that you definitely can see it within her play style and the way she calms down this group. And again, another senior season that should be really exciting for the Huskies.
And of course, Kenzie Wylie coming from Blaine High School down here in the Twin Cities of Minnesota, again, very renowned for its high school hockey program. And you talk about, that leadership that a senior defenseman can bring to you. You mentioned it right away. It's that calmness, it's that collectiveness, and it just resonates. When you have a leadership like that on your back end that says, hey, you know what, guys, we might be getting outshot, we may be under siege here, but we're going to stay calm, we're going to stick to our structure, we'll be fine. And you talk about, just having that vocality. And sometimes it's not about what you say, it's, what you do on the ice. And you can be silent and do all the right things, and it still can, leave a big impact on your players on the ice as well. So congratulations, Kenzie Wylie, for being our next pick. As we move right along here, Team Noah, as we're getting towards, toward the middle of the pack here, McKenna Wesloh and her team is going to be picking up Addi Scribner here for one of our newer incoming players for this 2020 COVID draft.
Yeah, incoming players, a sophomore this year playing at Ohio State last year, originally from East Ridge High School, 52 games played there, 22 goals, 32 assists, and 54 points. So really good statistics anytime, again, you're a point per game player. It just shows. And a real big trend that we're seeing, especially with this incoming class of freshmen and sophomores, is a lot of national camp invites, a 3-time U18 national camp invitee, and a pre-physical therapy major at St. Cloud State. So always nice to see the varying majors here. I think a lot of the majors on the men's team, they're just business majors, so I don't know, man, but really excited for this addition, and should be exciting to have a good defenseman here. Obviously we lost a fair amount of defensemen with this group, so I think she could really fill a void and be a productive player very quickly for the Huskies.
And as you talk about, Scribner again, not, unfamiliar with the Minnesota, grew up in Woodbury, again, as a sophomore coming in from Ohio State. Also a right-handed shooter, not many right-handed shots on the squad. In fact, only one of 3 that's on this roster, Noah. So a little bit of a different look too. I know that, when I'm shoveling snow, it's always a left hand down. That's kind of how I got it for me. But no question that these ladies could certainly beat me at shooting the puck in the net any day of any time. And certainly looking forward to see what the transfer from Ohio State can bring to this Huskies squad. So congratulations to Addi Scribner. We're going to go next to Taytum Geier's squad, who's now selecting a current Husky from last season. That would be Emma Bigham, as she gets our next pick in the 2020 COVID draft, Noah.
Yeah, this is a player that I imagine is going to have a very, very strong senior season. And the reason I say that, only 6 points in 33 games played last year, Nick, but 51 shots in those games, approaching almost 2 shots per game. And for me, that tells me that there's a player that is doing absolutely the right things on the ice, but just isn't, unfortunately, getting the bounce or the result that they're looking for to string a couple of, games with points or goals together. So I expect her to have a really strong senior year. Of course, we did get to see her in the skate with the Huskies last year as well, and she's a pretty good personality with the kids as well, taking a lot of photos with them. So again, on the ice, off the ice, a lot of players in that room that we see right now that are really good in terms of personality and academics, and kudos to them. Emma Bigham's one of them, but I think she's going to have even more production on the ice this year.
I would totally agree. Again, a native of Minnetonka, Minnesota, out of the well-acclaimed Minnetonka High School and their hockey program. Certainly some folks on the men's side could agree with that. But for Emma, you talk about doing the right things, exactly like you said. If you're shooting the puck and whether it's getting blocked or whatnot, you're drawing attention. So that means as an offensive player, you're having people pay attention to you, and you're taking, the eyes off of some of the players that are on the ice. So again, you talk about creativity. Sometimes just by being a shooting threat, you can sometimes draw a defenseman outside. You can draw, maybe a possible double team where you're having that threat to put the puck in the net. And certainly with, as you mentioned, being a leader in that shots category, she's certainly doing that. Just hopefully getting some of those bounces inside the twine of the season as we look forward to this next pick. For our team, Allie Cornelius, we have another incoming player this time. No one's going to be Adéla Škrdlová coming to us for our next pick in the 2020 COVID draft.
Yeah, Adéla Škrdlová going to wear sweater number 14 this year for the St. Cloud State Huskies, a defenseman, a U18 Czech national team participant again for the last 3 years, and was with the national team for 10 games recently. And you got to like that, right? Of course, you have Klara Hymlarova, who had such a successful and poised year in some big situations as a freshman. You have that connection in terms of having someone that can kind of help you through that transition from a similar area. Nick, is there something to be said for players like that being able to settle down with a calming influence as a freshman and a sophomore?
100%, because, as a freshman, you definitely have your own transition to make account for. But, for a team that's, I guess your line mates or even somebody as your defensive partner, if you're coming and you've been, with the program for a year, or maybe 2 or 3, you're always trying to see, how can I make the freshman calm down? How do you get them transition quickly? As a freshman, you can come in and cement yourself right away. That's very, very good news for a Husky squad. Again, it's all about defense in front of Emma Polusny, at least as of right now, and a good goaltending core that's behind her. But if you can transition well, and as a freshman, just feel like you're playing with confidence, playing with poise, that will resonate beautifully amongst the rest of the lineup. And so you can certainly be a great addition to that back end here for the St. Cloud State Huskies. Team Cornelius coming in with another pick here as we go back to back, again, going up and down our lineups. And Team Cornelius is going to pick Claire Hickey for our next draft pick here in the 2020 COVID draft segment.
Yeah, Dyer, Indiana native, 16 games last year, 12.5 shooting percentage. Someone who really knows how to be selective with her shots. That tells me that she's getting in the right situations in the right places to put the puck on net. Also part of the original Huskies Warming House podcast logo as well, with one of the coolest photos, I think, taken last year at Wisconsin as well. But a player that, again, I think that her work ethic and her tenacity, especially in the second half of the season, really shined through. She was trusted a lot more in those situations as the season went on by Steve McDonald and company. And I expect her to have a really strong sophomore year as part of, again, that freshman group from last year that was so effective in those big game situations for the women's hockey team.
And that's one thing we talk about, Noah, is when you have a good, strong freshman campaign, and certainly the numbers could have been bigger, but they were really good for this squad. And you can only imagine what the progression is going to be. And Claire Hickey, part of that group, and we certainly expect those numbers to rise for her to get more playing time. And as you mentioned, when the coaching staff trusts you, you're going to be out there in those types of situations late in the game when you're holding the lead, or maybe out there in the offensive zone trying to get back or tie a game. So, you earn trust with the coaches after their good play, and that's just not on one part of the ice. It's all 200 feet. So Claire Hickey, again, looking forward to see what she can do in this upcoming season. As we move down to our next pick in the 2020 COVID draft from Team Geier, and this is going to be someone from my neck of the woods of Apple Valley, Minnesota. It's Nicole Ness as our next pick in the COVID 2020 draft.
Yeah, spending last season with the 19U Alaska All-Stars, and the year before she had 18 goals, 11 assists, and 29 points. And guess this one, Nick, 9 games played, 29 points in 9 games played. That's 3.2 points per game. Pretty impressive. Kind of interesting if you look here, she's going to wear sweater number 26, throws with her right hand but is left-handed. I know another person like that, and that would be me. So she's got to be good at hockey, right, Nick?
I think so.
But very interesting that she journeyed up to Alaska when, of course, another player on this list, another freshman, and Allison Green, is from Anchorage, Alaska, but ended up playing in the States. So always interested to see the impressive scouting that the St. Cloud State women's hockey coaching staff does to find some of these talented players.
And certainly the big question I have for her is, in Apple Valley, there's 2 high schools. There's Eastview, which is pretty much on the east side of Galaxy Avenue. There's Apple Valley High School on the west side. I got to figure out which one she went to, because depending on what she went to, we could be really good friends or bitter enemies. But nonetheless, she's always welcome here for the St. Cloud State women's hockey team. Congratulations to Nicole Ness as the incoming freshman forward. As we continue on in our draft here, Noah, as our next selection will be another incoming player here for the Huskies women's hockey team. For Team Wesloh, their pick is Mackenzie Bourgerie.
Yeah, definitely. As I can pull up my notes here, I'm a little bit behind here, but here I am going to wear sweater number 10. I always like that sweater for a forward, right? Number 10, it just seems like a lot of good players have worn that number. Of course, from St. Michael, Minnesota, played for the North Wright County Riverhawks last year. 25 games played, 42 points in those games, Nick. Again, you got to love the point production here. 3 USA national camps, of course, and St. Cloud State is close to home for her parents and grandparents, and that's another aspect that, again, the game of hockey is bigger than just what is on the ice. Obviously, we can see that she can produce and is going to be a very effective contributor, but having friends and family be able to come watch the games in the future, I think, is all the more important for such a beautiful campus like St. Cloud State.
No question. We certainly don't know what the status is going to be for fans in this upcoming season. We're certainly hoping there will be some there, but at the end of the day, getting a chance to be on the roster of this St. Cloud State women's hockey team, which I think between you and I, we've talked about this team was poised to make some steps forward. And I really do think with the recruiting, the incoming players that we have coming in, and of course, again, we talk about last season's freshman group and some of the things that they have shown us and what I think they are projecting to do. This is going to be a really fun group to watch. So I'm really, really excited to see what can happen here as we move on to one of our later round picks here as we look for Jenniina Nylund, which is going to take Allison Green here, part of our 2020 COVID draft.
Yep, as we mentioned before, Anchorage, Alaska native, a forward, a freshman, obviously, for playing with 19U and Bell Tire in the AAA. And the year before, she had 67 games played and 55 points in those games. And I like to see players too when you look at that point production, right? You go on Elite Prospects, you go on Hockey DB, and you look at what players are producing. 27 goals and 28 assists. That tells me that's a player that some players are just shooters, some players are just setup players, but then you have players that they can do it all offensively, and Allison Green is going to be one of those players. Again, Nick, when have we said this before? A 3-time U.S. National Camp participant and a Boston Outstanding Defenseman Award and Team Minnesota MVP Award at Hockey Night in Boston during some tournaments as well. So gotta love these players on every big stage, taking home some accolades, and I really like this pick. Might be a dark horse pick for Jenniina Nylund and company.
It might be. She's got a good size here, too. As you mentioned, some of those points that she has accrued in her career. And something with the size 5'11" coming in, as you mentioned, from Anchorage, Alaska. Certainly what I look for in a player of that size and stature is, are you in the gritty areas? Are the ones getting rebounds? And certainly for a big stature, you can move around some players. You're not going to be moved around very bit. So you can kind of control your own destiny, especially in the offensive zone. I'd like to see what she can bring, certainly, to the Huskies lineup here. As we go to kind of our last pick per se, but it's not our pick, Noah. It's a little bit of a different showing here for Olivia Hanson, who is going to be picking her own team. And what we're going to do is the captains are going to approach the stage, I believe, and she is going to be picking out her own team as we go forward here. And let's look to see what Olivia Hanson has picked.
Yeah, we're going to give us a little bit of background info right before she jumps up here next. So Olivia Hanson from my neck of the woods. Of course, I'm from Bottineau, North Dakota, and she is from Minot. So, it's interesting. You have 6 juniors on this roster. Of course, 4 of them are captains. One of them is a goaltender, and she is the odd one out here getting to pick her team. Nick, but I've really liked how her game has developed. Of course, I got to see her play when she was in Minot, but I've really liked how, especially on the power play the second half of the year, she's someone who's not afraid to shoot the puck, a player that plays the game the right way. I know we keep saying that, but someone who has a really strong 200-foot game and does a good job of keeping pucks in front of her and making plays. So I think this will be a really fine addition to whichever team she chooses, and they're going to have a leg up just having one extra body on that bench. But we're going to turn it over. We're going to turn some microphones on here so we can hear the selection and check out what the final pick will be in the 2020 COVID Cup draft.
Hi, Hanson.
I believe it looks like it's going to be Team Geier is what I'm seeing here.
Team Geier is what it looks like there. So congratulations to Team Taytum Geier as they will pick up Olivia Hanson there. And as you mentioned, Noah, for Olivia Hanson, someone who shoots the puck as well as blocks pucks too. So you do a lot by, just preventing. You talk about, players in their careers and maybe not necessarily the offensive points, but what are they preventing the other team from doing? She certainly had been a shot blocker most of her career, both in juniors and now here at St. Cloud State, and looking to do so. And she'll be great in that tournament coming up here for the ladies.
Yep, and you've got, I think we're going to have some team pictures after is what it sounds like as well, but to kind of give people a breakdown when this does air, you're going to have games I believe are going to occur Fridays from what we understand. Of course, only 2 games per day, but as the players kind of wrap up and we kind of wrap up our show here, Nick, I really want to, I think from both of us, obviously it's been a real joy to cover the women's hockey team last year and moving into this year, but this is a group that they didn't, unfortunately, have probably the year at the end that they wanted to, but there's so much potential in that room, you know, with those women sitting in there. So much potential that I think this group can seriously make a push to be, you know, in that number 3 spot in the WCHA and potentially even higher. This group has all the tools. They have the goaltending, they have the defensive structure, they have the goal scorers and the up and coming players. And I think the culture around, you know, that room, the locker room, the way that the players treat each other is just phenomenal. I mean, we notice it as media people that barely get to, you know, spend any time around them. So just really, really impressive for this group. And from Nick and I, we wish all of you the best of luck this year and hope that you guys have a very, very successful season.
No question about it. Certainly looking forward to covering this team. I think the biggest, you know, advice that, you know, as a coach has given us has been, you know, if you win a lot of games, you have to have a short-term memory, but also if you lose a lot of games, you have to have short-term memory, like Noah. So we talk about last year a lot, but that's in the past now. I think there's a lot to look forward to this year. You got to leave what happened last year behind you, and you have to just kind of embrace what you have. Yes, this season's going to be different with COVID. We don't know if fans are going to be in the building. We don't know how the games are going to play out, but what we do know is that you have a really good group of young ladies here who are ready to compete, who've got a lot of good talent, who are good people both on and off the ice. And I really do think this is going to be a very strong group that's going to compete well in the WCHA, Noah. And with that, that will wrap up the 2020 COVID draft party. Stick around again, ladies, for team pictures. Welcome from both myself, Nick Maxson, and Noah Grant here at the Huskies Warming Up Podcast. Welcome to the 2020-21 season for the Huskies women's hockey team, and we look forward to covering you all this upcoming season.